what keeps you going in those moments when you're like, yeah, everybody's better than me, and I don't know if I'm going to get better. Some people just drive.
Yeah.
They just keep going.
Yeah.
Some people want to be there just because they want to be there. But what kept you
Yeah.
going in sport?
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you're saying 100%. I don't think most people do like want to stay in something that they don't prove to be good at early.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think it was probably my parents. Like my parents always pushed and they always were motivating of me, and like if I wanted to do anything, they were always behind me. And for me, it was strictly like we say football, for sure football was love. Like I grew up loving football since I was probably like, I don't know, 7 years old. My parents always watched NFL and was always a fan of basketball as well. So for football, for sure, it was drive. For volleyball, it like kind of that second sport that I also enjoyed doing, but it wasn't anything other than just liking to play. Like there was nothing else to it, and I was like, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. So I'm gonna stay in it. And I know for you, you played football too. You know how hard it is to play football. Football is an absolute grind, and just that motivation to just keep playing no matter what. I didn't care about being a good player. I just cared about playing.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Better at Beach Volleyball podcast. My name is Mark Burik, and today we are going to talk to somebody who has played indoor at the highest level and has had little tastes of beach volleyball along the way. He has his own coaching company. It seems, if you look at his Instagram, it seems like he's coaching almost nonstop. And he's one of our nation's top athletes. And it's going to be interesting to talk, I think, about what it's like to try to get into beach as a high level indoor player, to hear about the differences and his experience in going both routes, because he's got height, he's got jump, he's got ball control, he's got all the tools you need to be a great indoor or beach player. And he has also done all of his, I guess we'll say, he's done his rounds in the coaching world as well. So this is going to be someone that we can talk to and we can learn a lot from the beach side, from the indoor side, from the experience side, from the coaching side, from the club side, from the international side. I'm actually really excited about this talk. So our guest today, he's got experience playing overseas. He's played in over 10 different countries. He's coached with multiple club teams, and he's earned top 5 finishes in the Junior Olympics, JOs. And we're going to have some real rare experience that I can't wait to pull from. So I would love for you guys to take a deep dive with us and listen to this conversation and get a lot out of it. Let's welcome our guest, KJ, Kristopher Johnson. What's going on, man?
What's going on, Mark? How's it going? Better at Beach Fam. How you guys doing? And thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, definitely, dude. I want to dive kind of right into where you started, when you started volleyball, and what were you playing first? Were you playing indoor? Were you playing beach?
That's a good question. I actually started playing indoor. I probably picked up a volleyball first time in 8th grade. There was like open gym volleyball, and I didn't actually even play. I literally just walked in the gym, kind of picked up a volleyball, and I was like, oh, this is cool. Ended up going into 9th grade and trying out for the 9th grade team in high school, and ended up making the team. And I guess the rest is history. I kept playing for 15, 16 years, right?
What do you think? So for me, I played one year of high school, my junior year of high school. And I think one of them, this might sound weird, but one of the main reasons that I got into volleyball was the coach, the high school coach. First of all, he was a gym teacher. He was one of the cool teachers. We got along really well before that. But he played music in the gym. None of the other teams played like music, but he had music going nonstop. So it looked like practices were fun, And I was like, man, I kind of want to be in that vibe. So ended up trying out and making it. But for you, what was the first attraction to volleyball?
Personally, I was still searching for, I guess how you could say it, my sport. So I had grown up, I had tried baseball, I had tried a little bit of basketball, I had played football, I had done track, I had done a bunch of sports when I was in middle school before I even got into high school. And I was like, I'm just going to do something that I'm kind of interested in, and then I'm going to see where that takes me, So that was basically it. I was like, this is my next sport, and it was just something that I really wanted to try and see what happens, and ended up volleyball during high school almost the entire 4 years.
There wasn't like any moment or any feeling? I mean, like I played baseball and football, so compared to a bunch of other high school athletes, I probably had a good arm, right? And I
Yeah.
went into the gym and I messed around with the volleyball guys, and I hit a few and I mashed the back wall, like I
Yeah.
detonated, and it just went boom. And all the kids on the team were like, "Sick, dude, you hit so hard." And my coach is like,
Yeah.
"This kid's an idiot. Like it's got to go
Yeah.
in.
Gotta go
That
inside
doesn't
the
matter."
court, man. You can't just hit the ball to the wall.
Yeah. But like all the guys on the
Um,
team, they were telling me, like, so that gave me confidence because they're like, "Yo, you can hit," and I said, "All right, cool."
yeah.
And so I think that gave me confidence to keep going. But did you ever have a
Yeah.
feeling in the sport or like an interaction with an individual that pulled you?
To be honest, like I was somebody who was never really good at sports. And
Mm.
so the only reason like I was in sports was because I love sports overall. Like I really like going to practice. I like training. I like trying to get better. And there wasn't like a turning point. Like I didn't really start to get those turning points that you're talking about until I got in college. I
Late
was I was
bloomer.
just somebody, yeah, I am probably one of the latest bloomers that you've ever met. And like I didn't have those like turning points until I got to college. So everything in high school is just playing because I really enjoyed playing sports. Like there wasn't anything else to it. I was not extraordinary at anything. I wasn't good at anything. Like I wasn't a good player.
Were you the not good player that pro athletes talk about when they say not good player? Like, were you still above average, instead of just excellent? Because I consider when I tell the story, I'm like, yeah, I wasn't a great athlete. I didn't jump high, but when I compared myself to almost everybody else, there were like
Yeah,
four athletes on each team that were probably
yeah,
better than me.
yeah,
So I consider myself now like, nah, I wasn't one of the best, but I
yeah,
was one of the above average guys. Were
yeah.
you one of the above average guys, or were you down there?
No, I was down. So I'm telling you right now. So like volleyball as a freshman, I played, but I was the worst player. I didn't have any skill. I was probably one of the worst players. Even going through JV, even being in varsity, like I was told I wasn't gonna be a starter. I was one of the worst guys on the team. I would always work hard. I would never quit. And it was the same on the football team. Like
Mhm.
I wasn't the starter. Like I was coming in off the bench. I was like the sixth or seventh receiver on the roster. Like truthfully, I was either the worst player or I was just above the worst player like my entire high school career. And that's why most of the time people like have no idea of who I am or who I was as I came up through high school. Like I was literally like the bottom player.
What made you keep going? A lot of people when they don't when they're getting dogged or it's not, I don't know, you don't feel that confidence. What keeps you going in those moments when you're like, yeah, everybody's better than me and I don't know if I'm going to get better. Some people just drive.
Yeah.
They just keep going.
Yeah.
Some people want to be there just because they want to be there. But what kept you
Yeah.
going in sport?
And I definitely agree with what you're saying 100%. I don't think most people do like want to stay in something that they don't prove to be good at early.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think it was probably my parents. Like my parents always pushed and they always were motivating of me and like if I wanted to do anything, they were always behind me. And for me, it was strictly like we say football for sure. Football was love. Like I grew up loving football since I was probably like I don't know 7 years old. My parents always watched NFL and was always a fan of basketball as well. So for football for sure it was drive. For volleyball, it like kind of that second sport that I also enjoyed doing, but it wasn't anything other than just liking to play. Like there was nothing else to it, and I was like, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. So I'm gonna stay in it. And I know for you, you played football too. You know how hard it is to play football. Football is an absolute grind, and just that motivation to just keep playing no matter what. I didn't care about being a good player. I just cared about playing.
Don't you find that like, because you coach a lot, right? You run a lot of private
Yeah,
lessons. Your website's it's
for sure.
chrisjohnson.com, right?
Yeah, ChristopherAJohnson.com puts everything in. But
Cool.
yeah, I do a lot of lessons
So
while coaching now.
doesn't it kind of blow your mind? Because I feel like I'm the same way where I played sports to play sports. Like it was just
Yeah,
fun. It was just what you want to do. And then once
yeah,
you're in it, you're like, well, if I want to get good, I gotta work hard. But
for
I
sure.
volunteered for every single one. And my parents, they were always just, okay, like I'm
Yeah.
blessed with great parents. They drove me wherever I wanted to drive. You pick up a new sport and like, all right, hop in the minivan, like,
All
let's
right,
go.
let's do it.
But I feel like so many players, maybe I'm being too tough on juniors, but they're not
Yeah.
playing just because they raised their hand and said, please let me go to this, let me join this. What are you finding in the juniors world and in your private lessons? Are you finding that they're placed there by parents, or are they the ones that are showing up and saying, like, I want to be here just because I want to be here?
I would say it's split. Maybe it's, I don't know, 40, 60, 60, 40 or something like that, of like kids 100% want to be there, and then others are kind of pushed by their parents to be excellent or to just be in sports in general. And like you said, we just played because we really wanted to play. And then if we wanted to get better, we knew we had to work harder in order to do that. Now I think it's the athletes are probably more just involved in social media, and they kind of just do sports as like a side thing.
Hmm.
And so you don't, I haven't really seen a bunch of athletes who kind of have that grit that's like, no, I'm going to stay in it and I'm going to push hard and I'm going to continue to improve, even though I'm not the best athlete on the court. And then I think the other side is like, a lot of athletes want to just give it to them. They're like, I want to be the starter, so the coaches start me.
I always wonder if, like, here's one of my theories. I think a lot of the higher level athletes stick with the sport longer. They develop a passionate
Yeah,
relationship with it, and they end up being coaches because they love it so much. But that love was like lifelong, So they were the guys
yeah,
who were the guys and girls who were working hard and who were, spending the extra hours, and because of that, they did develop a closeness with the sport. And I
100%.
wonder, because you always hear coaches talking about, like, athletes these days, were maybe all the coaches, all the ones saying that, were the, 5% of athletes that were always
Yeah,
passionate, always pushing themselves. So
yeah,
maybe it always existed, but the people
yeah.
who have the microphone are the ones that were always the ones giving it all anyway.
I think there's two sides of that as well. There's the side where you had the naturally gifted athletes who were the early athletes. They were usually better than most, and then
Mm.
it makes it very easy to kind of fuel the drive to be better. And then there's the other
Oh,
side, the athletes that weren't as good, but they decided to grind to see how far they could push, not being naturally as talented in the sport, you know?
that's interesting. Yeah, because if you're good at it right away, you're just going to be kind of attracted to it.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
easy to stay.
it's easy
And
to stay
so
when you got a starting
I
role
train a
off the
lot of
bat.
athletes. Yeah, exactly. And I train a lot of athletes like that who are already good, or they're on the cusp of like right before they're about to be really good. And I remember not being that athlete for 5 or 6 years. Like most of my life, I wasn't that guy. So I see both sides, you know?
Do you think any one of them works harder? Like, if you had to put a stat on it, do you think that the ones who are gifted early and recognize that they're gifted early, or everybody else is, do you think that they're putting in more work, or do you see that the guys who are riding the edge, like the middle athletes who could be good if they pushed extra, are
Yeah.
they working harder or showing up more? Do you notice any differences like that?
I think that there's a lower percentage of athletes who are actually gifted and good who are trying to put in that extra time. I usually see the
Really?
athletes who are on
Damn.
the cusp putting in more work.
Dang.
So, I mean, that's just the way that I see it. I can't quantify it in like percentages, but I definitely think that if you're already gifted, I don't think you're putting in as much work. But I do have a few athletes who are doing that though, like who are
Yeah.
gifted and are also grinding hard, you know?
That's a tough line to ride, and trying to figure out how to. Well, because as a good coach, right, you got to motivate people in different ways. The great coaches, I was just watching some movie last night. I forget what movie, but they talked about, oh, you always have to find an angle. So sometimes a
Yeah.
great coach has to be completely silent to get through to somebody. Sometimes they have to scream to get through to somebody. But the
Yeah.
word was that there's always, it's that Uber docudrama, the one with the coach from
Oh,
Friday Night
okay.
Lights and
Yeah.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt. But as a CEO,
Yeah.
he says there's always an angle, not, hey, you got to
Hmm.
yell at people, not you have to be silent with people and let them do their thing, but the
Yeah.
angle. And it's always interesting to find the different angles that you need for every different, not even different type of athlete, but every different athlete.
Everyone. Every athlete is completely different. That's one of the things that I've noticed either about coaching teams or about coaching one on one. Some athletes, like, you actually got to get down on them in order for them to actually push. There are other athletes that you can't say that much to them. You just need to say a few things and then they'll turn. but
Mm.
every single athlete on your team is different, and you got to find a way to communicate to get the best out of them, for sure. More individual.
As a club coach, here's what I went through. I don't know if you went through the same thing, but I went through this probably confident arrogance, whatever you want to call it, where I was like, I know a lot more than them. This is going to be my
Yeah.
system. If you don't fit into my system, it's not going to work. Later, I stopped that. I stopped the Bobby Knight nonsense, of like, you got to subscribe to my stuff. And I was like, listen, if I'm going to get through to maximize, I'm going to have certain things that I allow, certain things that I don't allow, but I can't just act my way all the time. If I'm going to be a true leader, I have to figure out what each segment on my team needs. Did you go through that mental process? Because I went through it and it was weird, but I don't know if everybody goes through it.
Yeah, I think I've mostly been assisting, but I've been head coaches at times, and I don't think my one way was always the one way. I saw so many different athletes and also the way that they play. And so I think that's what like helps me with private coaching is I'm actually coaching you from literally where you are and the way that, so if we're talking about a certain skill, I'm always looking at, okay, well, do you do this thing that I may not like with that skill, but does it work? And
Mm,
if it works, there's a low chance that I'm going to try to fix it or critique it that much. But if you do something in a certain way and it's your way, it's different than my way, and it doesn't work, then I'm probably going to push more to make a change so we can get a better result.
got it. So it's kind of like Try talks about this with the Brazilian coaches, where he's just
Yeah.
Brazilian is reps and feeling. And a
Yeah.
few of the Brazilian coaches have said, like, we don't change something until it stops working or it presents like a cap, like
Yeah.
once it's limiting, that's when we'll discuss it. But until then, if you can feel the right thing and make it go to the right
Yeah.
place, they say that they don't comment on it. And that's why we get like people who like
Yeah.
with their forearm grip, they'll open one hand and keep the other one. That's why like April Ross has that giant stomp approach, and people have
Yeah.
all different weird. Phil's got a goofy foot approach, right? And
Yeah.
you say like, hey, we should change that. But the dude's siding out at 800, so why?
You don't touch it. Yeah. You don't freaking touch it, man.
Yeah.
And that I totally agree with that. I've seen a bunch of different things. I've seen people stand up like when they pass, or people finish weird with their hands when they set, but the ball isn't spinning and it's going to the right place. So I don't really try to touch too much of what's working, even if it's not textbook, because you can
Hmm.
look at any sport and see a lot of people do a lot of weird techniques. I don't know if you watch basketball, but the way Sean Marion used to shoot, or the way other basketball players shoot, it's so weird, but they get the ball to go in the basket. So you're like, you're going to change their shot release, even though they're shooting 40% from beyond the arc. Like, I don't like to change what works. I will change it if it's not working to make it more traditional. Like each
Okay.
player, I'm always watching that stuff.
Did you have any like kinks like that in your game where people were like, hey man, you should change this, and either you fought against it or you did change it?
I think I changed like the way that I was approaching to the ball. So like there were times I didn't use my arms enough when I'd approach the ball, and so I did actually need to make that adjustment because it did like allow me to jump higher. It allowed me to be more dynamic when I would hit the ball. So like my approach when I'm throwing my arms back, I actually did a lot of work in changing that,
Hmm.
and then changing the way that I served as well. I just wanted to have a more consistent serve. And the critiques that the coaches gave me did actually work. I pushed against a lot of my coaches because I'm very I'm naturally individual in the way that I see things in the way that I work, but
Mm.
it's very hard personally for me to change if there's not enough evidence or explanation behind why the change needs to happen.
You're that type. You're like the cerebral athlete. Like, give me
Yeah,
the why, and I'll go and do
yeah,
it. Instead of
yeah,
some athletes are just like straight up soldiers, where it's like, what do I need to
yeah.
do? Done. Okay, and they'll go
Okay,
bang their head
yeah.
against the wall for 10 minutes, and it's like, am I good
Is
yet?
that
Want
good?
10 more minutes? Like,
So yeah, I mean, were you that same way, or was it different for you?
uh, I needed a lot of why, but I was always kind of interested in learning. So
Yeah,
I feel like for me, anytime a coach gave me a correction, I was like, thank you. I
yeah,
craved it. I don't know
yeah,
why, but I never thought I was doing anything right. I was
yeah,
like, I do feel slower. I do feel like I should jump higher, hit harder, or be better. I always felt like my game was lacking. So I was like, dude, if you're going to pay attention to me enough to fix something, that's me getting a private lesson. I never
Take it. Yeah,
had a private lesson as a kid. I'm trying to think if I ever got a private lesson, before individuals in college. And individuals is not even a private lesson. You're still there with 3 or 4 people. I'm pretty sure I have never, as a kid under 18, never had a private lesson, which is kind of bonkers.
To be completely honest, like I didn't either. Like I didn't get my first private lesson until I was like 19, 20 years old, legit. So I completely agree with you there. I did not get one. But also I didn't play club sports either. So I think that's part of the reason why.
I played like one travel team in baseball from Little League, but you're not calling that the club sports of today. There was a very different thing about club sports. It's changed into something that I kind of think is a little dangerous, and maybe not dangerous, but overboard. Like way
sports
too much
is different
money.
this year. It's different. It's definitely year round. Like that was one of the things where it wasn't like that for us. Like I don't remember ever playing a sport year round. I always played multiple sports, so I never played one sport like a full year. I don't remember ever doing that. So now it's like you will play volleyball or basketball or whatever it is, like 11 months out of the year. You just keep going.
That's wild. Like I would play basketball year round, but not on a team. I had 3 months in the fall, winter, somewhere around there. And then that was it. But like I was going in my backyard. I was still going to all my parks and playing. So I just played whatever sport I could whenever I could. And if it turned into like, hey, we're playing basketball today, or no, we're going to go break into the Little League park today so we can play football. Like, all right. Yeah. That's what we're doing.
All right, cool. Whatever you want to do. Like, and I feel like that's an important part that I think is missing more. I feel like a lot of athletes and maybe even their parents want to specialize so quickly. They want to specialize so early. And I usually tell them, I'm like, no, like go play multiple sports. Like you want to figure out what you like, but also you want to get the cross training. You want to train in different skills so then you can use those in the sport that you finally decide to stick with full time.
And have some liberty to be creative.
Yeah.
Like that's my big thing is if somebody, so let's say you get stuck with, or not stuck, maybe sometimes it could be a blessing, but you get a coach who is, hey, it's my way. Hey, you have to drive this technique. Sure. Okay. They might make you have perfect technique, but when are you permitted to just explore different things, be creative, be stupid, practice your half court, like buzzer beater shots. I think that's, without any stats or science behind it, that's got to be important to allow creativity and exploration.
Yeah, and I think I would say that happens more now as players start to play beach volleyball more, because you don't see a lot of that indoors, because a lot of indoor volleyball is very controlled by the coaches and staff and stuff like that. And I think you notice it obviously the most in basketball, because most basketball players grow up playing like street ball and stuff. So there's no coach there. They get to be as creative as they want. They get to take the half court shot, like you're saying, and there's no repercussion for it. They just like get to figure out if they can do it or not, or if it's cool,
Right. Like, would the professor still have a YouTube channel if he had like all standard moves and he wasn't able to teach people what he was doing? It was literally all creativity and making stuff up.
No way. You make stuff up at the park and there's nobody to tell you that you can't do it. You just go do whatever the heck you want,
I don't know. I'm worried. I think there are some beach coaches and club directors worried. We had Phil on an episode a couple episodes ago, and he was like, we are not a club. It's the Phil Dalhausser Beach Volleyball Academy. He goes, we teach people to play beach volleyball. We create leagues, we create classes, but we're not a club. He goes, I do not like or want the indoor club environment infiltrating beach volleyball. And it is starting to in a lot of places where parents are getting more involved. They're getting chatty. They're trying to ref. They're complaining to the refs. And it's just like, man, this is what made beach so good, because it was an escape and you could be individual. You could be unique. I'm a little stressed about that, but it is turning out ridiculously good female beach volleyball players. Guys, we still got nothing.
Man. It's great volleyball, man. I don't know if it is whatever they call it, the Title IX, where you gotta like have, I guess, equality I guess I don't know exactly if it's equality in numbers in sports or whatever.
Equal funding dollars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess because of it's hard to get like a men's beach program off the ground. I mean, it's hard enough to get men's indoor programs off the ground, which there are way more than there were like 10 years ago, which is really nice. But as far as girls volleyball, it's huge. You have girls volleyball like at every high school, every college in the country. So there's a bunch of opportunities. And now that you got beach, man, you got girls playing beach since they're like 8 or 9 years old, and they're coming into your CBVA A tournament beating the adults. It's stupid now.
Oh
So
man.
it's gonna be crazy once we start talking about like who's really gonna be going to the Olympics, because they're coming all the way from 9 years old all the way through high school and the club beach and college beach. They get to go all the way through until you get to AVP, you know?
Yeah.
So it's gonna be crazy. I'm excited to see
I
it.
know. It's like there's so many good ones and so many unique games, like unique
Yeah,
styles of play. Because you got Nuss, who's 5'6", and then her partner who's 6'4", close, right?
massive,
Yeah,
massive.
and they're playing a completely different game than like Kelly Clays, who's playing a completely
100%.
different game than like Jace Pardon was playing, and you got
Yeah.
all these girls who can just win in AVP with completely different styles of play and sizes and
No
shapes and
one way.
everything. It's sick.
There's no one way anymore.
I'm
It
hoping
used to
that that
be just
comes
that one
from
way.
maybe our generation of coaches that are like,
Yeah.
nah, we should still explore. We should still let people be individual because that's what beach is about. I wonder like if
Yeah.
in 15 years all coaches will be so systemized and hardcore like indoor has or had become. Yeah, that's it's going to be interesting to see if that freedom of expression still stays in beach. I hope it does. I think it should.
I I definitely want there to be more freedom, because I've already like just to see now beach evolve, like everybody is now jump hand setting, which is completely changing the game, you know. That's a
Yeah.
completely different thing that wasn't even on the table before. It was hard enough to step in and hand set. Now they're like, no, we're gonna jump hand set. We can hit it, we can set it, we open up the net for everybody. Just that type of creativity has changed the game massively, and I'm excited to see more of it. I think that's going to change the international game, but also it makes us super competitive as a country.
Oh yeah, and I wonder what rules are gonna end up changing or being altered. You know, like now you like
We'll see
the
about
hand
that.
setting, which has been a little ridiculous, especially since they don't
Oh
involve
man,
the players in any of the discussions. Like, hey,
no,
should we change the hand setting rules? At least ask the players, hey, do you think we should
yeah,
change the hand setting rules? Like, who are you? Why are we making all these decisions without any involvement of the player committee? And say
yeah,
nobody's saying like, no, we have to completely revolutionize the way we call handsets. No player
yeah.
that I've talked to has ever said that. So
I
why did it
feel
happen this
yeah,
year?
and I feel like I don't know. I just feel like it's completely subjective the way that they call hands, and
Yeah.
I feel like if you go and talk to refs, you'll just get completely different answers, which is always like one of the most frustrating parts for me when it came to trying to learn how to handset. I'm like, okay, well, what exactly are you looking for? Are you looking for multiple things? And I got multiple answers from different refs, which is highly frustrating.
It's a
So
weird
there's not
subjective
one
rule.
way. Yeah, super subjective.
I wonder if
So
basketball went through that with dribbling. Like for sure it did. You know, the first time somebody kind of like
without a doubt,
palm the side of the ball, everybody's like, "What was that?"
yeah,
You know, and now
yeah,
it's like they're holding it for 3 steps and then bouncing it. But
you do
yeah,
whatever you want.
it'll
You do whatever you want now, and
pretty much
your caliber of player decides what they'll call.
right.
Yeah. So that's the most interesting. That's also very subjective as well. It's like your regular player will get called for everything, and your
Mm.
really amazing player won't get called for very much.
That's the funny part about playing amateur and pro tournaments. Like we're playing on the
Yeah,
AVP, and then we'll go to Wapaka or Pottstown,
yeah,
and everybody's like,
yeah.
"God, that's a double! That's crazy!" And you're like, "I haven't been called for a set in 5 tournaments. Like that
Yeah,
is, you guys are
literally,
calling a way different game than the national tour
one
is
hundred
calling,
percent,
and it's like tougher to
100%.
set in local tournaments than
Yeah,
it is on the AVP."
100%. And that
Yeah,
I mean that's the tough part. It's like I think with the beach game, we're mostly you get ref by your peers, which
yeah.
means they can kind of call anything. And then obviously once you get to higher level, you get to higher level AVP or international ball. I don't know if P1440 is still doing their thing, but You get into stuff where there's actual refs, the higher level, yeah, you get more consistency. But for the most part, you get refs by the people that you play against. So they call a lot of random things.
Man, even at
I
like
think
we
we're
have
one of the only self-ref sports.
we run online classes for our camp, so we have a complete player program,
Yeah.
and we have 2 film meetings a week. So all the players, they show
Yeah.
me what they did that weekend, their tournaments, their practices, or any drills that I gave them, and we do these film reviews. And we're still talking, no matter how many videos I make on Instagram or on YouTube, people are still talking about, like, are you allowed to overset? Like, how long can you hold a set? And it drives me
Or do you hold
insane.
it?
I'm like, how many videos do I need to make to explain these rules
Yeah.
and to get tournament directors all on the same page? Like, why can't we
Same
all be playing by the
page. Yeah,
same rule book?
right.
Because it is
No,
the
everybody
place that
sees
we
it
have.
completely differently.
Yeah. And then a tournament director or a facility owner, they're going to make a different rule set because it'll just be easier for everybody. And it's like, well, now
Yeah.
you're just changing the rules to the sport. And sure, it might
Yeah.
be easier, but everybody's just grossly confused.
Yeah. I don't know anybody who's 100% sure about the hand setting rules. And then it's complete. Yeah. So and then it's completely subjective based on the way that you actually set the ball. So
Yep.
the way everybody sets is different. So the way you call their hands is different from somebody else's. And then, I mean, we're talking about hold, we're talking about finish, and we're talking about spin, which is
Hmm.
like a completely different conversation, you know?
Worst part of our sport. And
Exactly.
for everybody out there, if you're reffing, if you don't have a miniature vomit in your mouth because of the handset that you saw, just don't call it. Like,
Yeah.
it has to make you so, like, ooh, and immediately want to say that was bad. If you have to,
Yeah.
like, tip your head from side to side and think about it, stay out of it. It's better to
Don't
be the
do it.
one that doesn't call everybody than deciding these little marginal lines of where you're
Yeah.
going to call. And then now, as a ref, as a player ref, you're involved in the outcome of the game. And
Yeah.
so, as a rule, everybody, just, if it doesn't make you throw up in your mouth, just
Don't do
don't
it.
blow the whistle. Stay out of
Don't
it.
do it.
Oh, it's not worth it, especially if you're reffing my games,
Yeah.
because
Don't
I'll let
do
you
it.
know exactly that.
Less is always more. Like when I remember playing a lot of beach, and I'm like, man, I'm not really calling that much hands. Like it's got to be really bad for me to be like, yeah, that was for sure a double or a lift. I'm like, I don't remember calling more than a few a match or something like that. I just
Yeah.
didn't want to, didn't need to, you know.
I put my brim
Like
so
everybody's
low.
different.
I'm just like,
Yeah.
like, unless I
Like
hear like 4 people shout like, "Oh," then I'll be like,
yeah.
probably a double. I don't know. I wasn't
Yeah,
watching.
I'm not sure. Yeah, and I want like from your point of view, like, is there for sure a number on that? Like, hey, how many times the ball rotates? Like,
Nah,
does the
can't
hand come out
can't
clean?
call on that. Like,
And that's what
has
I mean.
you can't look at the ball after it comes out.
Yeah,
You have to be watching the hand contact. So, like, you shouldn't be
yeah,
following the ball as a ref. You should be
yeah.
looking at the person's hands who are about to set. And if you don't see them hit it 2 different times or completely separately, then don't call it. But like the
And
spin
that's
afterwards, be like, oh, it had 3.5 spins, you know. So obviously, no, you cannot and should not call it on that.
and that's the funny part. I actually played. I don't know if you've been to the Vancouver Open up in Canada.
Still haven't. It's
Oh
kind of a
man, you got
bucket
to get up
list.
there. That was one of the funnest tournaments I went to, but that was probably the most consistent reffing I've ever received while
Well,
playing beach. Super
nice.
consistent. Like when I spoke to most of the refs, all of them were like, "We just want to see your hands come out clean," and they were not worried about the spin. And most of the refs that I've actually dealt with would definitely call the spin, even if it came out.
Ugh,
So
yeah.
that was the frustrating part. But in that Vancouver Open, like those refs were super consistent when I played.
I got just a little kind of ad for something. We're not even selling it, but guys, if
Yeah.
you're interested in seeing how well you know the rules, and you're listening or you're watching, it's on the screen right now. But if you're listening, if you head on over to betteratbeach.com/rules quiz, betteratbeach.com/rules quiz, there's a bunch of questions that we've taken sort of from the rule book, but we make it so that it's like you're talking in conversation, and you can test your knowledge, beach volleyball rules. Go to betteratbeach.com/rules quiz. It's a free quiz. I made it. so that we can help people and stop these like absurd discussions and stop all the requests for videos that we've already made. So go ahead, betterbeach.com/rules quiz and test your knowledge of some pretty intricate volleyball rules and actually how to call and ref a game. So rules quiz at betterbeach.com. Check it out. KJ, I want to switch from a setting discussion, which I didn't know we'd get into, to I want to hear about your path coming out of high school into college, then the various national teams and the various indoor pro teams. So coming out of high school,
Okay.
let's start there. You played a couple years in college. How did that go? How'd that come about?
Okay, so I'll run you through high school real quick, so it's like understandable of my path. Just like I said before, I played football and volleyball. Played 3 years football, 4 years volleyball. Played freshman team, 2 years JV, 1 year varsity. Didn't actually end up starting.
Oh, you really weren't good.
So
yeah,
I wasn't good. I told you.
You're
like,
not
this
lying.
Isn't a joke. Yeah, like this isn't a joke. Like not at all. Like I wasn't. I was like one of the worst players, or maybe I was just above one of the worst players. So I got a lot of opportunities from my coach in high school, and he kept plugging away, let me stay in it. And like I said, I never played club volleyball ever, so I wasn't club and then high school. But yeah, I didn't start until towards the end of my year in varsity. I played a lot on JV and freshman, and I was not recruited out of high school by anybody. My high school coach knew the head coach at Long Beach City College. I'm born and raised in Long Beach.
So you're 6'11" right now, is that right?
I'm 6'9". They
6'9", 6'11" on a college or a pro roster. I got it. Yeah.
Yeah, 6'11". They like to scoop some goals.
It's funny. Like when I started playing beach, I started making myself shorter. You know, like on my college, I was like, yeah, I might be 6'4". Like every time I beat somebody new on the beach, I'm like 6'1", 6.5 feet, 5'11".
Defender style.
That's right. Just rub it in their face. Like I don't. Yeah, I'd love to be smaller than you and still win. How tall were you? Your high school coming out of high school? Because if you're 6'11" coming out of high school, like shouldn't everybody just be jumping over the bleachers to get you on their team?
Yeah, and like I said before, I was a late bloomer. I probably walked into high school around 5'8", 5'9", and I grew about an inch and a half a year, and I graduated at like 6'2", 6'3".
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh, you're like Matt Anderson. Matt Anderson was the same way. He came into college at like 6'4", maybe 6'5". When he graduated or went to Korea, he was like 6'10".
Exactly. He's taller than me. I played on the national team with him long enough. He's actually taller than me. Him and Max Holder taller than me by like an inch or two. They're legit like 6'10" guys. But yeah, I grew like inch and a half a year, 5'8" to 6'3" over my high school career.
Okay, so yeah, that's not like amazing for a coach. They're like, yeah, everybody's 6'3". Okay.
Yeah, I was a normal guy. Like I was average, so everybody said they can't do it. Like go work hard. But came out of high school 6'2", 6'3". That was actually when I had my spurt during my freshman year at Long Beach City College. I grew from about 6'3" to 6'8".
Whoa. Did everything hurt?
So,
like were your knees just killing you?
Yeah, my knees felt like absolute crap. Like my knees felt horrible. Feet were all of a sudden off the bed. Like all that stuff. My body was going through so many growing pains, like 5 inches in a year. But that was when I hit my spurt. And then everything else kind of came with it, and my vertigo came with it. And I was able to grow into my body. I was like 19 years old, almost 20. And that was when I started kind of figuring things out and things started to get better. Super late growth spurt. But
all right. So okay, you got a spot at Long Beach City College playing, and then coach all of a sudden thinks he hits the jackpot after a few months of seeing you grow 3-4 inches.
I hit the jackpot with my coach, who's super excited. The basketball coach from Long Beach City College also reached out, wanted me to come over. I was like, there's no way. I quit football. I was like, I'm not conditioning anymore. I'm done with running. And so ended up redshirting my first year. I played my second year. And during my redshirt year, we won a championship, which was cool. My second year that I actually started playing, we ended up, I think, losing in the semifinals. And also the same in my third year, we lost in the semifinals. I was, I think, Western State Conference, like one of the best players those 2 years that I played. And then during that time, I played U21 for USA Beach for 2 of those summers. And
how did that happen?
Having a lot of fun with that. You know Chris. So Chris Austin, he was the guy who like ended up pushing me in the beach. Was like, hey man, like, let's go play. And I was like, all right, why not? Like I don't have anything to lose. I got the time to do it. Chris was like huge in the beach at the time, and I was like, we could play together. Let's see what happens. And so we both actually did the USA Beach. I think he was under whatever 19s or something like that, under 20s, whatever it was, and I was U21. That was when I ended up meeting a lot of the guys who were really good in college. Connor Hughes at UC Irvine and Tony Ciarelli at not Long Beach, at USC. I met
so many people don't
guys.
know that Sarah Hughes has a brother who's also legit at volleyball. Like
legit, Connor Hughes, the real deal.
Legit, yeah. That's a freaking athletic family right there.
No, their whole family is huge. I know them well. And that was where I kind of met those players who were already like high level indoor college players. And that was before I even left Long Beach City College. So I got that experience, did CBVA, we won, we got the AAA, which was super fun. And I think we actually got that AAA against Ian Satterfield, your partner, when we were younger and in college. And I think we beat him in a AA to get the triple. So I don't think he was too happy about that. Yeah, that was when we were young. We were like 20 years old. And so I did that. And then I ended up getting recruited after my third year by Hawaii, Long Beach State, UC Irvine, and California Baptist University. Ended up not wanting to go to Long Beach or Hawaii. Long Beach was home. I didn't want to stay home. Hawaii was on an island, didn't want to stay on an island. UC Irvine ended up not being able to make the grades. You got to have like a 4.0 to get into there. You got to be super smart. Ended up going to Cal Baptist because I knew I'd be able to play and I really liked the school. So I went there and then ended up playing that year. Was one of the best players in the country, one of the best middles. I think I had probably one of the highest percentage, top 5 hitting percentages in the country that year.
Damn.
As a middle. And that was really fun. And I ended up getting injured my redshirt senior year. So that's my 5th year in college. I got injured my back really badly and couldn't play for 9 months.
Dude, we have the similar story. I was out for 3/4 of my season, my super senior year, and it was nothing hurt more. I was like, this is not supposed to happen this year. Like, come on.
That's terrible. You're like, I'm supposed to go out like playing my best ball so I can do whatever I want afterwards. It was a rough year. I was contemplating retiring because my back was really bad. And I ended up being able to kind of deal with it and get my back better. And I got lucky. They gave me a medical hardship year. I wasn't expecting to get that year back, but they gave me a 6th year. So I had a redshirt year and a medical hardship year. Came back my super duper senior year.
Super duper
6 years in college.
It's tough to leave college, man. I mean, I'll stay 6-7 years. That's honestly, like when I was in college, I didn't want to stay anymore. But now, if I had one more year, it would be fine. But I was ready to be done with college when I was done.
I definitely get that. I wasn't really in a rush because like I was always paying attention to like what the situation was after college, and I was like, am I in a rush to get to an office job? Trying to do like I have no problem staying in college longer, you know? Yeah. So ended up playing that 6th year, that medical hardship year, and we probably had one of our worst years that I ever played in college. We only won a few games, and I was super disappointed. I still played good. I think I was like top 10 hitting percentage, probably top 15, top 20 in block. And after my senior year, I got invited to the U.S. national team.
For the people who don't know how that works, like, could you explain the two things? When you say that you just went to the U19 or U21 beach national team tryouts, and then somebody invited you to be on the national team. Can you explain for somebody who had never experienced anything like that, how that happened? Is it a phone call, a text message, an email? Yeah.
Okay. As far as the U21, U19, they actually had tryouts. Me and Chris just went to the tryouts. They were like, yeah, we have USA beach tryouts. Go try out. And then I ended up making the team from the tryouts. The training team. So I was only on the training team for USA U21 for those 2 years, and then they would take 2 or 4 players for an international competition, the best players of that training group, and you would go overseas or wherever you go to compete in that tournament. So that was a tryout. As far as the national team, I feel like you usually just get invited. So you go and it has a lot to do with where you play and your coach as well. So I had some coaches who had played high level, and they were helpful with kind of like plugging me in like with the national team coaches.
Okay, but so the college coaches are kind of talking closely with national team coaches, and it should be. That's like the males in USA are breeding ground for national team players. 100%. So they're talking like, hey, this guy's next level, or can be, or will be.
Yeah. And so also you got to prove it on the court. Like I also stepped on the court and was one of the best offensive middles in the country. I was okay with my blocking, a little bit better than okay, but as far as offensively, I felt like I was almost unstoppable as a middle coming out of college, and my numbers proved it. So people like knew who I was. And so I actually I think I was supposed to go after my senior year, but I ended up getting injured that year. So I ended up playing that next year. But I just received an email from the assistant coach, I think it was from Matt. Yeah, Matt Furbringer, who also the national team assistant coach right now, and he runs Mizuno Long Beach Volleyball Club.
Oh, that's right. I thought he had Rockstar for some reason. I don't know why I thought that. He's got a beach club
Rockstar is
too.
Mizuno.
Oh,
Rockstar
okay.
is Mizuno. So Mizuno is the girls' club, and Rockstar is the boys' branch off of Mizuno.
Got it. Okay.
So they're the same thing. But and the funny part is I actually worked with Mizuno when I was in college too. I was coaching like their little kids. So he already knew who I was.
Perfect.
So it worked out perfect. But yeah, I just received literally an email that had went to my spam. So I actually received it like a few days before. And I just so happened to go into my spam, and the email was in my spam. And I was like, are you kidding me? I was so mad. Like, it came like 1 or 2 days prior, and like I reach out to them immediately. I'm like, yes, like I can come. And so they're like, yeah, come down.
Yeah, can you imagine finding that like weeks later?
God, man. I was like freaking out, man. I literally just finished my season 2 probably like 2 days prior. But yeah, that's basically the way the process goes. You usually get invited. If you're a junior player, I think you'll get invited, or you can go to a tryout, because you can check like the USA website, and they usually have tryouts for junior national teams, and it helps to get you into the system at a younger age. I wasn't really in the system for the indoor side, but I was on the beach side. But yeah, I got invited.
So it's just phone call, email, and it helps if your coaches are. I mean, I feel like almost every college coach for the men's team, whatever it is, the national team coaches have to be connected with the NCAA coaches and have to have that open conversation. Yeah. And I think we're one of the few, if not only, country that we source so many of our national teams or pro teams directly out of college. Like if you look at football, it's like, that is the minor league NFL. You know, there's no other thing. Canadian Football League, nah, sorry. Like European Football League, playing for pizza.
No. Yeah. It's college. It's college. Your coaches know. Your coaches see you in practice. Your coaches see you in the matches, and they're like, yeah, this player is better than most players that are on our team and that we play against. You want to bring them. So yeah, that basically ended up happening, and I got invited to the national team. But I was just training. I had a lot of stuff that I needed to work on. I was a really raw player, just very athletic, and basically just went through train that summer, and like pushing through. I ended up playing professionally for 4 years. So I played pro volleyball for 4 years. 2 of those years were in Finland, so my first 2 years in Finland.
Joyner played in Finland. Nice.
Did he?
Yeah. I have no idea I played 2 years in Sweden, 2 years in Norway. Joyner played in Finland. I think I know somebody else who played in Finland, but there's some decent clubs. There's like 1 or 2 clubs in each of those countries that can compete, like not with the rest of Europe, but with some of the other top European teams. And then when you get to Italy's, Poland's, France's, it's like, forget about it.
No way. They were the top teams. The 2 top teams in Finland were either like Tikari, Volleyball, and Hurricane. Those are like the 3 top teams in Finland every year, and they usually play in like a Challenge Cup or a CEV Cup. I don't know if you know about the cups.
Yeah, but, I played in European Cup when I played in Croatia. We went to Vienna. That was fun. 19-hour road trips was a little insane, especially when your coach is like.
Italy?
We went to Vienna, Austria, from Croatia, and we had to go to Slovenia, we had Slovakia, we had Bosnia, Herzegovina. Went up to Austria, and it's just like these trips. And then we had a crazy coach who I brought my guitar because it's 19 hours each way, and he's like, "What are you doing? You can't bring that. You have to focus. We're here for competition." And I was like, "You want me to focus for the next 19 hours and do what?" Yeah. Like, I didn't get along with him too well.
I totally agree with that. I had some crazy coaches. My craziest coaches were definitely in Romania. My other two coaches in Finland and Portugal were pretty chill. One of my favorite coaches was actually in Portugal. But yeah, ended up playing Finland those 2 years, and I play on a brand new team. I think we finished like seventh the first year, and then we finished like fourth the second year, which was completely unbelievable for a brand new like pro team to come into the league, you know. And then I went to Portugal, and I think we finished like third that year. And then I went to Romania. We also finished third that year. But we, like you said, like played in a bunch of different countries. Played, I don't know, Slovakia, Norway, Turkey. There was just, I think we ended up going like 6 or 7 countries. We went to so many countries. Just playing international. I played Challenge Cup in Portugal and Romania. Okay. So we ended up traveling around. I think we went to Bulgaria, and we were always flying to a different place. I went to visit Spain. So we ended up all over the place like you did.
When you think back to competing at that level for completely different cultures, completely different countries, completely different personalities, what was one thing that you took from that experience that you absolutely say no to? Like, my team, or when I'm a coach, I will never do this, that you found out there that you like absolutely hated about a culture, a personality, or a coach.
I absolutely hated how emotional my coaches were. It was so annoying. My foreign coaches were so emotional, and the emotional part would actually hurt our team because they would blow our timeouts so fast. It drove me insane. I had this coach in Finland, and he was a cool guy. He was generally very calm, but in the match, very emotional. And so he would literally blow. And here's the thing: did you have the timeout, commercial timeout? Did you have
like the technical? I think
the technical timeout.
I think sometimes we did. I'm trying to think back now. We had to.
Yeah,
man.
Most of the time you have a technical timeout.
Are you old when you can't remember?
So that's like hey, it is what it is, man. I know that I feel like most teams had a technical timeout, and they would call a timeout probably like, I don't know, maybe at 15 or something like that, whenever they call it. But my coach would consistently call both of our timeouts before we hit the technical timeout, and that drove me insane. I was like, stop. I would go to the coach and be like, stop calling timeouts. I was like, we need these for the end of the set. And he would get so frustrated because maybe we would lose like 3-4 points in a row. And I was like, this is volleyball, man. It's ebbs and flows. Like, this is how it goes. And like we would like come back. Like, we come back, go on 5-point run or whatever. And I'm just like, he would just blow the timeout. So that was one huge thing that I was like, once I'm coaching, that's not happening. Like, I'm keeping my timeouts for as long as I can. I'm making my players push through those tough times where the team scores a lot of points in a row, but I'm not blowing the timeouts.
Who was it? John Wooden always said that he like guaranteed that he would never be the first team to call a timeout, because he was like, I will always condition my teams to the point where they never need a break before the other. And he always wanted to put the pressure or the belief. But when I read his book, he said he would never call, the rule of his, he would never call the first timeout in a game. And I was like, that's interesting.
I love that. Parents would have conversations with me about that. They'd be like, you're not going to call a timeout, or you wouldn't call a timeout in this situation? I was like, no. I was like, the players always play wonky in the first 10 points.
Right. You're feeling each other out.
Run in the first 10 points. Yeah.
You're not throwing any punches. You're just like seeing how people move. Yeah.
Yeah, you're trying to figure it out. I was like, it's really got to be like 7-0, 6-0 for me to be like, all right, I'm going to call a timeout. But otherwise, I'm like, if they went on a little 4 or 5 point run in the first 10 points, I'm like, you watch a lot of like junior volleyball, you'll see like some team is down like 2-8 in the first 10, and they come back and win. They go on big service runs. So like, it's very rare that I call a timeout early.
All right. So blowing timeouts. What was one thing from culture or from personalities, teammates, team, club, organization that you absolutely want to take to your teams, your clubs, your coaching style, you as a player?
Consistency, like just staying consistent with your training. And also, if I could bring in the weight training aspect, that was huge for me. I never consistently weight trained during a season until I went pro. And
what?
That would be one thing that I for sure want to bring in. Yeah. Didn't do it.
Whoa.
Didn't do it. Like, even when we played football, we would probably weight train like maybe once or twice a week in season. In volleyball, we only lifted like one time during season. In the pro season, we'd lift like 2-3 times in a week, every week. Most of the time, like it'd be 3 times. And that was like really good for my body. Like physically, I felt amazing. I was like, I've never done this before. So that would be one thing that I liked and I'd want to take over. You know,
how did you balance for the best teams or your best year? How was the weight training balanced with practices? Did it matter what day you were practicing, what day you're lifting? Did you always say, how's your body feeling, and then change your lifting for that? Or were you like Kobe, where it's like, no, like I made a promise to myself, this is what I'm going to do no matter what, no matter how tired, how hurt I am?
Yeah, I personally did. Yeah, I personally wasn't on the Kobe side. Like if my body felt absolutely terrible, like I really wouldn't go and lift. And if I did, it'd be really light. But most of the time we'd have 2 a days in our pro season. So in the morning you go lift, and then maybe you go in the gym and do a serve and pass for an hour, or maybe you would just lift. And then in the afternoon you'd have your evening practice. There was usually time to actually do both. Like you could get your lift in, recover, and then go and practice at night. So I go 2-3 days a week. Sometimes I go 4. Like I was really trying to get like more strength because I've always been a skinny guy, so I wanted to get a little bigger. So I'd go more.
There's nothing else to do when you're over there.
Nothing else to do. Yeah, you're bored. Like, you're pretty bored over there.
I didn't have a smartphone. You know, I had like the little like flip phone that they gave you in the country with the SIM card, and you're just like, I think it was downloaded movies. Yeah, so that's when I learned to love coffee. Like Sweden, all you do is sit around all day and drink coffee.
For coffee all day. They drink coffee like 5 times a day, man. When I was in Finland, man, they always were trying to get coffee. I was like, holy moly. I was like, I drink like maybe a cup every other day. They were like, we got to get 3-4 cups of this coffee in, man. I was like, do your thing.
And those are the guys with jobs. You're like, I'm playing volleyball 3 hours a day, and then there's nothing else to do. So I might as well stay here and have a 4th cup.
Yeah. I'm not doing anything else until practice. Like, why not? You know?
Yeah. It's wild.
You learned
to love coffee out of boredom. I did. I was pretty lucky with where I had, like in Sweden, I was kind of in the middle of nowhere in Vingåker. It's literally called Wingfield is the name of it, and the 70% of the town's power came from windmills. And people were like, "Wait, where do you?" Because when I say like, "Yeah, I play in Sweden," I play in the pro league, and half of Sweden doesn't know that there's a pro volleyball league, and then they're like, "Oh, well, okay, what city are you in?" And I was like, Vingåker. And it always got the same, Vingåker? Like, why are you there? They literally said, why are you there by saying the name. Yeah.
Why are you in the middle of nowhere? Any of the locals, they always know the location. They're like, why would you go there? They're like, you came from America. Why would you do that? They'd be so mad.
They're paying me to be here. What do you want?
Yeah.
And I get to play volleyball all day and lift. Like, it's great.
How'd you like Norway, though? Because I went to play a team there, and it was really nice.
I really love Norway.
Norway's sweet.
The months that we're there, it's like you don't get to experience their spring or summer. So there's 5 hours of daylight the entire time you're there. So that it takes a toll on you. It's cold, it's snowy. But as a city, I loved Oslo. I thought Oslo was just an awesome city to be a part of. Their public transportation system was easy, and I had a car, so it was like a choice. And it was really cool.
Transportation is amazing.
And everyone there's happy. They're good. While I was there, they had an emergency surplus of money. So their government literally said, "Hey guys, we have too much money. We have to have an emergency meeting to figure out what to do with it." I was like, you don't hear about that in the US.
Yeah, no way. We're always running out of money. We're out of deficit. Always. So that's crazy.
Yeah. And I did snowboarding. I did skiing and stuff. So that's
sweet.
Yeah. Pretty easy life. It's not a hardcore professional league. Like there are a few teams that get to a level where they compete against the other countries, but our team was always like 4th. In Croatia, we were like the top team in Croatia. But Sweden and Norway were hovering around like 3rd to 5th or 6th, somewhere around there, depending.
I love Norway. I went on a trip. We went to play a team called, I think it's Forde. Like it's like forward, and then you have the E.
Forde. Yep. Ferde.
Yeah. So we went, Ferde, however they say it. And we went to play against them, and they were like, yeah, we actually don't get paid. Like we all work in the city. We don't get paid to play. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like I couldn't believe it. I was like, wait, y'all actually don't get paid? They're like, nope. They're like, we don't get paid. And they were in Challenge Cup. They were in a European competition. Like, we
Yeah,
played against
they
them. It was
pride themselves so much on that club specifically. And Nieborg is also another club that's always, well, this is 10 years ago, I guess now, but they're always high up in the ranks. And like, they're priding themselves saying like, we do it without pro players. You know, every other team had somewhere between like 1 and 4 pro players, but they would recruit, they would take people. They're like, nope, we got the hookup with jobs, we got the hookup with careers. So they would take players from other clubs and they'd say, we'll give you a good solid job and you can play volleyball. And they kind of like that better because they didn't see volleyball as like a endeavor to like make money in Norway if they wanted to stay there. Yeah.
They wanted to stay.
So yeah, it would be kind of like, you know, the pro league right now in the US, like pro league, like they could do it that way if somebody had a hookup with a company that had like easy, cushy jobs and they're like, hey, come play for my pro team. I'm not going to pay you for that, but I'll teach you finance or real estate and you'll have light hours and learn how to make money. So
it's possible. I definitely could see that. But yeah, I played those 4 years and overseas, which was amazing. Got to go to over 10 countries and ended up having pretty good finishes. And then just to help people understand the way that it works with playing national team and pro, as you know, you go overseas for about 8 months, which is basically about the school year. So you go to overseas from fall all the way to like the end of spring. You come home for the summer. Was it like that for you too?
Yep.
So you play a pro season during the school year, and then you come home in the spring, and you come home at the end of spring, and then you play national team during the summer. So during those 3 or 4 months. So I spent 5 summers with the U.S. national team from 2014 to 2018, and ended up playing in like training mostly, but I played in USA VB Cups against Japan and Brazil, played in the Pan American Games in 2015 in Toronto, Canada, and we played against a bunch of teams, Argentina, Cuba, Canada, played against a bunch of teams there. Played in the Pan Am. I think I played in like 1 or 2 Pan Am Cups. One of them for sure was in Mexico City. Played against Mexico and Canada and a few other teams there. So I played in a few like international competitions, but they were local. And then after that, after my season in Romania, I definitely decided that I was like, all right, I'm good. Like, I'm done playing professionally. Like, physically, my body is like in a lot of pain. I'm definitely ready to shut it down and out.
I had kind of a similar conversation. Like, I was on my 5th or 6th cortisone shot. I was like, my shoulder wouldn't swing itself anymore. I was like throwing my chest and my arm would follow like in a very limp-wristed kind of way. And I was like, man, I can't get any more juice. Like, there's always like a different nagging injury. And at the same time, I was kind of pushing the envelope for AVP during the summers. And there are a few guys who had done already what I had done, like Ty Trambly, Casey Patterson. Casey Patterson played in Sweden before me. And I messaged those guys before I knew their name. Well, before they knew my name, I guess. And I was just like, you know, what made you stop playing indoor? Am I making the right decision? And Ty Trambly was like, well, I was tired of coming back every year. And the guys who I was beating last year are now beating me. He's like, all these, I like beach better. And the people who are at the same level, they're getting more reps than me. And I'm just getting like kind of a little tired and beat up from indoor. And I'd rather be better at beach, you know? And I'm just like, that's, there you go. Yeah. See that?
Where's the thing? Is it over there? Yeah, better beach.
But that was my kind of call. It was like, all right, you know, it's breaking down hard. And I do love beach volleyball. And if I were going to have control over my future, which would I have control of more? And I felt like I could control my destiny more through beach. And that was why I made the choice to stop indoor, I guess.
And you played beach every summer. So you actually had the experience. You knew what was going on. So it wasn't a guessing game. I definitely was kind of deciding which route I wanted to take. But I had those same things. Like, I still had the issue with my back that I dealt with in college. And I jump a lot as a middle. So knee problems, rolled my ankles a lot, like anything you can name. I had shoulder, tore the labrum while I was playing pro. Like, I've had a lot of different injuries while I played. But I mean, I'm one of the few people I know who's actually played consecutively for 14, 15 years. Like, since my freshman year of high school, I never actually took a year off.
Good for you.
Until
but it's like pro athletes are healthy, right? Like, we're supposed to be like the healthiest. It's like, no, we're the most run down, beat up, 50 years old.
Yeah. Body's 50 years old right now while you're 25, you know? That was like my indoor and then a little bit of beach, just playing national team 5 years, playing pro 4 years overseas. And then came out of it and decided I wasn't going to go overseas again. And so decided to start playing beach again with Chris. It was like right on time. We were like, yeah, let's commit to it again, like we did in college, and see what happens.
Mm.
And that was like one of the hardest years in transitioning for sure from indoor into beach full time. And
What was the
that
hardest part
that
about
year
it?
was a grind. I'd say the hardest thing was one, moving effectively in the sand, because like
Mm.
balancing in the sand was probably one of the hardest things for me, and getting down, especially with my knees, was like a headache.
So like
But I'd
short balls and
say,
stuff like that.
yeah, like moving around, jumping, getting low on the block, and then like passing. Passing was hands down probably the hardest skill to transition, and then making the little moves off the block was like
Mm.
a big thing for me. And that's, I mean, and hand setting is a completely different beast. Hand setting is super tough. But yeah, it was basically like learning how to play volleyball all over again, to be completely honest. Like that was really how I could put it in a nutshell.
If
And I
you
had to
were
do
to
it in like a year.
redesign the training that you did, and you had to give yourself a 2 month block of what drills you would do the absolute most, because you could design it full outright, you have any number of coaches and players that you want. What
Yeah.
would you focus on in a short, fast amount of time that would get you as close to your peak as you could get in a 1 or 2 month period? Would you just do passing?
Um,
Would you just do setting? Would you do
yeah.
sprints or agility?
Yeah. As far as the conditioning aspect, I didn't really like condition too much unless we kind of had it scheduled in, because me and Chris stepped on the beach. You guys know we lived on the sand. So we'd step on the sand like 7 a.m. and walk off until 11 or 12 noon. We
Whew.
did that like 4 or 5 days a week. It was full commitment. It was like indoor style commitment. Like we played sometimes 6, 7 days a week, just trying to get ourselves in better condition. And then also just trying to make sure that we got as much training and touches as possible. But if I create a system for me personally, because I know my skills are different than other people's, I would have probably spent a lion's share of my time on passing and setting. Serving was fine. Blocking was a little bit rough, but it was serviceable. And then offense was actually the thing that I came in with like not having too much of a problem with. And I heard that a lot of beach players, the offense was the last thing to transition. And for me, offense was like the first thing to transition over. I could walk on the sand and score.
I think what you did
So
well right off the bat, that I think more people should probably do coming from indoor, you didn't try to create a beach offense for yourself. Like, I think some bigger guys or anybody who's hit, they're like, I'm on the beach
yeah.
now, so it's all about shots. And it's like, wait a second, you just spent the last 15 years pounding against
Pounding
2 and 3
balls.
guys. Like, why would you
Yeah.
try to like create a beach offense? Like, go like the guys from the Netherlands and just
Yeah.
detonate, and I think you
Yeah.
did that super well, and you were effective off the net, on the net, getting over guys, and you didn't need to do what so many people think they need. Oh, I need a cut shot. Oh, I need a consistent high line or even a jumbo. Like,
Yeah.
dude, if you're
Yeah.
above 6'6", don't hit a jumbo ever in your life.
Go hit, man. Go
Yeah.
hit. I always tell people that. I'm like, go hit. If you're hitting your thing, like walk in, hitting. And that's the thing. Like if anybody knows me, we play against each other. You see me play. Like I'm very terminal with my offense, and I'm willing to make errors, like trying to score.
Mhm.
So that was the thing that I always did my entire career, whether I played some middle or whether I played opposite. I went to bang balls. If the block was in front of me, I was okay with getting blocked. If the block was in front of me, I'm trying to either hit around or I'm trying to hit off the block to score. That was the most important thing to me. I don't want there to be any questions about whether I went to try to score or not. So that was the first thing that transferred over, and I didn't worry about it. But to your plan, for sure, passing and setting, those were the hardest things for me to transition, because I didn't walk in as an outside hitter who got to work on my platform my entire
Oh
life,
yeah.
or walk in. And the thing is, like, I feel like personally as an outside hitter, it's hands down like the best indoor position, because you have to do every single skill on the court. There's no skill that you miss. So working, like, especially as a new player, like working on passing, if you're not already a natural passer, and working on hand setting, because hand setting is like so important. You need to be able to put the ball where you want to with your hands. The girls can get away with bump setting. I've seen it, and girls are hand setting more now, but
Oh yeah.
girls just have more, I feel like, more natural platform control. So they can get away with bump setting their entire career, to be honest.
And I also think they kind of had to, like, from indoor as well. Guys were able to use their fingers, and I think that sort of transition
Yeah.
happened where you see females come out a little bit. I'm not saying that they're worse at it. I'm saying they come out of college worse at it
Yeah.
because the ball is going straight at their belly buttons. For guys, a flat
Yeah.
float serve is coming across our eyes because of the height of the net. So we're used to like
Yeah.
using our fingers, grabbing it, and chucking it. So we might be slightly
Yeah.
better at overhand, hard-driven defense because we've done it so much.
Done it
And
our
they're better
entire
at
life.
platforms because, man, they've been platform passing. I mean, some coaches don't even like let their girls use their fingers in indoor because they're just like, use your
Heck
feet,
no.
get your platform on it.
Yeah.
So they're so good at passing and holding their angles.
Amazing at passing. I trained so many girls, and their platform passing is so much better than mine. They're just so very good control, understanding placement, how they use their platforms, very accurate. And I mean, I don't think at the younger age, most girls aren't usually strong enough to use their hands anyway. If they do step up, a lot of the balls go through their hands. It's not to be disrespectful. It's just how the game works. Hard flat serves go through hands if they're loose. So yeah, for me, passing and setting were the big things, and then we got into like blocking. But that 2 month block for sure was a lot of passing and a lot of hand setting, because those are, to me, those are the most important skills.
Can't do anything without them. Like
Like
without those, doesn't matter
exactly,
how
you
good your
can't do
defense
nothing.
is, doesn't matter how good your block
Doesn't
is, at
matter.
some point, you're going to need to convert.
Yeah, you gotta have that platform. And so, like with my hitting, I came out, I was like, I'm gonna hit. Like, I don't care, I'm gonna hit, and I'm gonna deal with the consequences or successes of that. Later on, like once I got a few months in and I understood what my hitting could do, I actually only would train shooting. So I'd only train high line, jumbo, cut shot, all the stuff that you said. I would actually only come into training and work on those things because I knew that I could step into the game and bank the ball. So
I would, man,
it's
get
for
rid of your
me.
jumbo. High line, all right. But like I would call your high line just like slap over a block. I wouldn't even call it a high line. I would never tell you to hit a high line. I would say slap over a block. And then I would just say like hit sharp cross. Like I wouldn't even call it a cut. Like hit sharp cross or slap over them. If you're 6'2", you're 6 foot, you're 5'5". All right, now you need a high line.
You need all those things. You're playing against bigger players. So I understood that as beach, and as you know, you must be completely well-rounded because your opponent will eventually find your weakness, whatever that weakness is. They will find it. So I would always go into training trying to work on my weaknesses. I would go in and be like, I'm not hitting a ball today. I need to pass every ball. I need a handset off of all your passes, stuff like that, to where I was like, I need to shore up all my weaknesses. I need to learn how to do the turn off the block and still be able to make a dig on a roll shot right next to me. Stuff like that. Beach is a game of pushing to have zero weaknesses. That's just how it is.
KJ, man, this was a good talk.
Good doubt, talk, man. No doubt. It's been good.
I want to know how, when, and where our people can find you to take some lessons, because I know you're doing a lot of lessons, a lot of coaching. You got a great Instagram that coaches on its own. So how do we find you? Where do we follow you?
If you're just looking for my regular personal account, it's Chris AJ1. So it's just like my name, Kris AJ1. That's my personal account. And then if you're looking for my business account, you can go KJ Volleyball Coaching, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. All the same name, no guessing game, KJ Volleyball Coaching. And luckily, since there's nobody who creates a name like that, I have it in Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And then my website is generally attached to each one of those, but it's Kristopher A. Johnson. If you want to reach out or anything like that, that's my website where I book my lessons and things.
Cool. So, and where are you coaching? When people fly into California, this is who they should find?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. So I actually
coach
most. Yeah, we're all over the place. I know you're all over the place too, Mark. You're coaching everywhere. So I'm based in Orange County, so I coach in like Anaheim and Irvine area, but I also come down to South Bay. So I come down to El Segundo and Redondo Beach, and I coach indoor as well. So I coach indoor in South Bay and in Orange County. And then if you want to do beach as well, I coach in both of those places as well. I do both. I just get it by request. So I'm all over the place.
Awesome. If you
No
think
doubt.
that you have a specialty, like something that, man, trust me, I will get you better at this, and
Yeah.
this is what I will hang my hat on for the rest of my coaching career. What would somebody go to you and what would you fix in my game that you would just knock out and that you actually love and enjoy to coach and teach and break down?
To be completely honest, it's definitely passing. I get so many liberos and outside hitters that it's absolutely insane. And they all come to me to train passing. And passing was the thing that I need to work on the most. So actually, I studied passing the most. I talked to the most people about passing, seen passing the most. That's the thing where I'm like, all right, I'll hang my hat on teaching you how to pass. And then the side note is hitting, because everybody knows that I freaking hit balls. So you want to come to me, yeah, like the side note is hitting. Like I get a decent amount of people for hitting, but I get a lot of phone calls from parents who are like, we need to do libero outside passing, and I've helped a lot of people become a lot better at passing. So that's the thing I hang my hat on. Secondary is hitting, which is funny.
Nice. That's awesome. That's great. So, hey guys, if you're in LA, if you're in Redondo, if you're in Orange County, California, or, if you just want to reach out and get some advice from him, you can hit him up at KJ Volleyball Coaching on pretty much all social media. And he just gave you the open invite. So don't be shy about sending any messages. And dude, great talking to you. Thanks for the convo.
No doubt, man. Mark, thanks for having me on. Like, really good show around here. Really good podcast, sandcast, however you want to call it. I see all your videos, man. Like, Better at Beach is growing big, man. You got like 50,000+ followers now, and I think everybody likes what you're doing. So keep doing your thing. It looks big. I like it.
Appreciate that, man. Well, hopefully we'll get another 50,000 thanks to you being on the podcast now.
You got it, man. You'll get it for sure. Thanks for having me on.
Love it. All right.
And tell Brandon I said hello too.
I will. All
right,
we've been plotting how to get you on our next 6-man team. So you'll be getting a text
you got some work
early
to
next
do,
summer.
man.
Yeah.
you better send it as early as possible, and I'll see what I could do.
All right. Put it. Just keep us on the short list.
We'll do.
All
right, man.
Later, KJ. Nice, guys. What a cool episode that was. It's always fun to hear people's different paths, right? So me and Chris, we both played indoor, we both played beach, and we had completely different paths. And one of the things that I'm always telling everybody is you can learn from somebody who is at the same place as you, because in order to get to the same place, you can take an infinite number of paths, which means that you see, you experience, you learn different things along the way to get to that final destination. So even though you're looking across the aisle at somebody who may have played at the same level, similar level as you, they have different things that they can teach you, right? Because they've seen different things, they've had different coaches, and they can use different keys. And the more I kind of train leaders and coaches, the more I learn from my coaches, the people that I'm training, the people that I'm guiding. I want to learn from them because I know that they've seen different things. And that's a really cool part, I think, about these conversations and this podcast that we have, is that we can learn from each other because we've experienced different things and we've seen different part of the games or came into it at different points. So really great conversation with Chris. Yeah. I don't know what to say other than that. But guys, if you ever want to find us for clinics or camps, just remember that we have about 20 spots left in each of our camps this fall and winter. So they might be sold out by the time this podcast gets released. But if you're listening live, definitely head over there. If you're looking for any skill courses, all you guys need to do is head on over to betteratbeach.com, click on that little button that says online courses and coaching, and know that if you want your game to be looked at, your strategy, your skills, your lifting technique, we're there. We meet twice a week with you, and we actually work on your film. So you can choose to just get our membership, which has all of our skill and strategy courses, or you can choose the upgraded membership, the complete player program, where we literally work with you twice a week. on Zoom calls, and we are studying your film, your technique, your videos, and giving you guidance. And would love to have you as part of our group. If you're listening live on October 1st, our 21-day Athletic Foundations live course kicks off. So if you're looking to start lifting and getting in great shape this fall, we're starting on October 1st. We're doing a live group where we have a 21-day fitness and nutrition challenge. And you can learn all about that by checking out betteratbeach.com/foundations. And if this is a popular course of ours, we have 53 practice plans, all with videos and minute-to-minute laid out practice plans. And you can always go ahead and download that at betteratbeach.com/practice plans. But aside from that, always reach out. Better at Beach Volleyball. You can find us on Instagram, or you can just send an email to support@betteratbeach and reach out. We'll be happy to hear from you and any questions. And if you think that there's anybody that we should have on the podcast, or maybe you want to be a guest yourself, go ahead and reach out. We would love to hear from you and make our scheduling lives easy. All right. Hope you guys are having a great day. Thanks for listening, and we will see you on the sand.